What's up, little guy? We're gonna do another video. This is martial art after reaction to. I'm reacting to Armchair Violence. Uh, I'm gonna be a little read what he says. I explain how pump strikes of are overrated and my bare knuckles punches are not as bad as people seem to think they are. All right, let's dive in. I'm not watched this yet, so let's
If you've listened
continue.
to as much bad self-defense advice as I have, you've probably heard the line, "Don't punch in a street fight." The argument is that punching with your bare fists risks breaking the small bones in your hand and that you should instead use palm strikes. But as with most self-defense advice, it's clear nobody's actually thought this through. In reality, there are a few situations where you might prefer a palm strike over a punch, but punches are going to be as good or better the vast majority of the time. I'm going to explain why punches are better than you think, why palm strikes are worse than you think, and in what situations you actually could use palm strikes. Now, being afraid to hurt yourself when you throw a strike is understandable, but palm strikes don't solve this problem. If I make perfect contact with the heel of my hand, great. If I make less than perfect contact, I jam my fingers and hyperextend my wrist, which is not great. Palm strikes just mean you get to break your distance.
That means you just suck at palm strikes if you do not. Anyways, I kind of see his point. Let's continue on what he's talking about.
Radius instead of your metacarpals, which is not better, just in case you're wondering. And note the majority of the surface area of your palm strike is a bad area to make contact with. Now, some people might argue that they would never make contact with the wrong part of the hand. They're too skilled for that. But if they always hit with perfect precision and alignment, then they probably wouldn't break their fist either. In reality, the only way to guarantee
That's true. Uh, in a way, because when you punch to any way, if you punch this way and you're holding someone punches and you punch this or you miss a punch and you make your wrist turn to a certain way, you could hurt your wrist. You can break if you hit the wrong part of the head. You could break your knuckles. Fighting in general, there's always a risk factor of breaking bones. It's uh can be preventable with training and practice. Doing these type of training. So let's continue what he says.
guarantee that you don't get injured is to not get in fights. And sure, palm strike injuries are much less common than punch injuries, but that's because palm strikes are less common than punches. And they're less common because it's an awkward, unintuitive motion that is used by neither complete beginners nor trained fighters. It's merely something that's talked about in the small sliver of the population that's an expert in self-defense but doesn't actually spar. If people did spar, they would quickly figure out that the palm strike is awful to throw. Trying to get the heel of my hand to point forward with my arm fully extended is a literal pain. My wrist does not want to bend that way, and getting it into that position.
But I don't tend to strike like this. I like my hands kind of flat, and my you can do this as a strike, um, but I typically don't like to do this. I like to if I have a cup my a hand up, I will go upward, and I'll go from the chin, so that the fingers won't hit. Especially this is the only time that you one of the only time you should use a palm strike if because I'm working downward. I'm not doing and I'm tagging the eyes at the same time. So that's just my general thing. So if I had to cause damage, I'll go here. Go into well, I think I'm into the claws and back down. With that, you know, claw scratching or whatever you want. I'm gonna do as much damage as possible. But yes, it's stupid to think that because now I got somebody else's DNA in my fingernails. That's That's just this the but if the idea I'm going with is I only use that technique if uh I feel like my life is in danger. Like this is the it's not daily, it's not daily, but if I plan to use something like that, I want to do as much damage as possible. Because scratching into somebody's eyes is not fairly painful. Uh, will it work 100% time? Probably no, not really. But it can be effective if used properly.
Position while maintaining the kind of looseness necessary for a speedy strike is borderline impossible. If I strike with my hand in a relaxed, neutral position, what does that look like? A fist! Not only are fists more comfortable to throw, but they're easier to land.
He's the enthusiasm sucks. I don't like. I mean, I guess that's what he's going for is this his tone. Uh, use the wrong tone to people like this can rub a lot of people the wrong way. But that's just him, I suppose.
A palm strike has roughly double the surface area of a fist, which makes slipping a strike through my opponent's guard a monumental undertaking. Anyone that's sparred both with and without boxing gloves knows how hard it is to get that thing through a tight guard. And boxing gloves at least have a rounded front that you can wedge through gaps. Palm strikes can't wedge through anything. Plus, we have the issue of reach. Shaving roughly 2 inches of reach off of each arm is going to put you at a noticeable disadvantage. Fighting is a game of inches. Small distances can be
Well, that the guard that she had was good, pretty good, but nobody's gonna fight. Nobody's gonna have that kind of guard up and fighting. If you've been in any Street Fighting or watched any Street Fighting videos, you will know that majority of times people don't. A lot of people who does not have any training have the lack of keeping their hands up. So palm strikes in the street fight is feasible. It's very possible.
be the difference between a clean knockout and a complete miss. Whether you hurt yourself from landing a strike doesn't matter if you can't land a strike. Now, admittedly, if I throw a full power shot at someone's frontal bone, I'll probably break my hand. But throwing a full power round kick at someone's knee means I'll probably break my shin. Does this mean kicks are useless too? No, it means you shouldn't be throwing full power shots at moving targets. This is something that most actual fighters already know, because throwing anything with 100% power requires a disproportionate amount of time and concentration. And in the likely event you miss, you're off balance and overextended. I'm probably not throwing anything over 50% unless I have a clear, obvious target, and punching at 100% is never necessary. Light, controlled punches are a lot less likely to break your hand even if you hit someone in the frontal bone. These light punches are then used to set up the hard shot.
I have some disagreement with what he says. Yes. So again, I don't know. I don't want to assume that he's never been in Street Fight. To order, he's thinking as far as somebody who knows how to fight, right? And I don't know if I'm misreading what he's saying, but because he's a young kid, I'm trying to really think about what he's saying. But I'll say all the same time, been in street fights, knowing that people fight differently, right? That makes sense to me if you was fighting somebody who's trained versus somebody who's not trained. Uh, I've seen somebody who's trying to. In fact, I just walked away from the fight because the guy that he was all bouncing, 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 and he went to attack me, and I dodged it and walked away from the fight. It was not, to me, it was not worth fighting the guy because he wanted me to hit him first, and he was sticking out his stuff out and taunting me and like it's not worth it. Not because I don't think he would it would have been a lot, well, a one of one or a loss. It's just fact, I, knowing that me being bigger than he is, one, two, knowing that I have more skills than he is than he did as well. So to uh fight someone on school is, you know, is asking trouble. So I was thinking, it's not worth fighting for something that I have no, I have no intention to fight anyone. So I just walked away, and I wanted to fight because he didn't understand why, you know. He probably think, oh, he's a coward, a royal coward, he doesn't fight, blah blah blah. Eh, I don't care. He could have chased me. He could have tried to fight me, hit me, right? He could have done a lot. But it's when I see somebody who has their hands down, it's just knowing that if I have my hands up, I'll be a bit. I will have hit because he will continue to have this hands down. So to me, I thought it was not a fair fight. So I walked away and like whatever. I'm not gonna fight somebody who's not. Who does not know how to fight. So there you go.
Winging barehanded power shots at someone that has their head down is something untrained people do. Already I hear 1,000 nerds furiously typing in the comments, "But Mike Tyson broke his hand in a street fight and he knows how to punch!" I hear this all the
That's annoying. Why did you have to make those mock? Doesn't don't do that. Why would you put that in your video? I can't stand those whining noise you made. Who cares what if we're not Mike Tyson broke his hand in should fight? Are you reacting to somebody who's made a comment already, or are you preparing yourself to react to somebody just because they say something? Alright, that's
the time, and it seems like nobody knows the actual story. First of all, he didn't break his hand on some random guy. He was fighting another elite heavyweight boxer. Second of all, the punch that broke his hand also knocked his opponent out cold. Tyson was actually afraid he had died. Punching hard enough to hurt his hand also hurt his opponent. Imagine that. Third of all, Tyson had a mild hairline fracture. His break only mattered because his hands were worth millions of dollars. If you or I came in with that injury, the doctor probably wouldn't even bother putting a cast on it. Fourth of all, this all happened to someone that only trains to fight in boxing gloves, which don't even let you make a fist correctly.
that's true. So that's true. Um, and then it says a lot of boxers, the will break their hands because the fact the boxing gloves does not allow to form a good uh boxing. So when I train somebody, or I prefer to use MMA gloves. But we ain't sparring with them because MMA gloves are not as padded. But as far as training goes, to teach somebody how to punch properly, uh, will even with light sparring, sometimes I'll use MMA gloves for that, so that we can throw. So for light sparring, we'll use those gloves as well. So I don't really care because the MMA gloves now would have more padding on the gloves, and they're fantastic gloves to use. Not only that, mouthpieces, headgear works as well. So um, I think even if you wear boxing gloves, you can still knock somebody out if you're stupid enough to go all out in sparring. So keep in mind, uh, I, in mind when you do spar, use protection as well. And don't go too crazy and heavy when you spar. All right, nobody wants a concussion. So but going back to I don't have no problem with boxing gloves, even with training or not training. Some effect, but some effect that they don't uh show you how to don't give you the right tools to close your fists all the way around.
So quit bringing up the Mike Tyson story. All it shows is that punching works well enough to win street fights. The next thing you need to understand is that firmness and lack of cushion in your fists is not a bug, it's a feature. The protruding knuckles mean you can open up cuts on your opponent's face, and the rigidity allows you to do more soft tissue and bone damage. If adding a meat cushion to a strike protects you from injuries, it will also protect your opponent from injuries. If I hit someone with my sword, I might gouge the blade on their skull. I know. I'll cover it in padding so my sword is...
Okay, that's annoying. Again, don't even make annoying voices for your video. Talk normal and stop being an idiot.
...is nice and safe. You missed the point of the weapon. Get it? Point. Major League Baseball players break their bats all the time, but they're not going to switch over to using pool noodles. Sure, pool noodles won't ever shatter on impact, but they also lack the rigidity and hardness to make the ball go anywhere. When you make something stiffer, you generally also make it more brittle. No sex jokes in the comments. Banned. Blocked, blocked, blocked. None of you are free of sin. The lack of cushion in your fists is the thing that makes them useful in the first place. Now, if you've thought about it enough, you could probably tell that punches are better than palm strikes even if you know nothing about martial arts. And that's based on the simple fact that everyone makes fists when completely...
This kid is smart, but yet he had the nerve to air block everybody who has a dirty mind. That's just redundant.
Untrained people act on instinct, they throw punches. When toddlers are mad at you, they throw punches. Granted, they're throwing awful punches and making awful fists, but they're still making fists. Punches.
Right, that's true. You have to learn how to punch properly, or you'll hit like a toddler like this. Yeah. Instead of boom, boom, right? So it's important to hit the two knuckles, or if you do a focal punch, hit the three knuckles and push it forward. I mean, that's then it becomes your opinion, which punch you want to punch somebody with.
Punching is the way that humans, and especially males, naturally and instinctively fight. If that was a horrible and dangerous way to throw strikes, evolution probably would have selected that trait out. A broken hand during prehistory is not easily fixed, and your odds of reproducing would drastically decrease. Despite this, making fists seems to be pretty well coded into our genes. And scientists that have actually studied the evolution of human anatomy have come to a general consensus that men's hands are designed to make fists. They're not optimized to make fists because they still have to be good at doing a ton of other things, but they're not bad at making fists. As biology professor David Carrier put it, evolutionarily, an individual that can strike with a clenched fist can hit harder without injuring themselves. That's just how I imagine professors talk.
Carrier's findings suggest that a fully buttressed fist can safely strike with 55% more force than an unbuttressed fist, and 200% more than an open hand slap.
So according to an actual expert on the subject, the palm strike people have their biology completely backwards. Now, I know I've been dissing on palm strike.
Although Boss Rutan did knock somebody out with the palm strike or slap, he's a big dude. And yes, there is a stupid game where people line up to slap and knock, and people do get knocked out from slaps, but that might as well be, let me punch you in the face, knock him out.
Strikes a lot, but they can be useful in certain scenarios. The most obvious use for them is on the ground. If I'm in top position, palm strikes work fine because my opponent is beneath me instead of in front of me. This means that my wrist gets me at a much more comfortable angle. Even if I'm on my feet, I can turn an overhand or a long distance hook into a slap and still have my hand at an angle that doesn't hyperextend my wrist or compromise my reach. Obviously, these strikes won't do the same amount of tissue damage that a punch would, but my open hand means I can more easily transition to a collar tie or a guard teardown. So there are uses for palm strikes in a fight. The problem is that most of the people advocating for palm...
That's a good grappling point of view when you... Or, I've said this a million times though, you can cuff your hands up and that will allow you to slap into the air and cuffs into... And now you got them into a clinch. Or whatever you want, and and that goes with trapping as well. For example, you can slap down and open up so you throw a punch or whatever. The concept you want to do.
Palm strikes don't know enough about fighting to identify what these uses are, but it's important to note that as a general rule, punches are better, whether you're wearing a glove or not. And remember, the biggest factor in whether or not you can fight is not your hand position. It's whether or not you've practiced fighting. Mike Tyson is stupid because he broke his hand in a fight. I could have beaten that heavyweight professional boxer easily because palm strikes. All the stupid alignment and self-defense tricks in the book aren't going to save you from someone that's better at fighting. And in the danger and chaos of a street fight, hurting my little fingies from repeatedly punching my opponent in the face is a good problem to have. As an afterthought, I realized that people are going to say, "Oh, why didn't you punch someone in the head to prove your theory?" Well,
that's annoying. Stop it.
Well, I couldn't get anyone bigger than me's schedule to line up with mine, so Kaylin's gonna live out every girlfriend's dream and punch me in the head over and over. I outweigh Kaylin by 50 pounds, and she has just the teeniest, tiniest hands. Make a fist, Kaylin. Look at the fist sizes. Look at that. It's adorable. If she's not gonna break her wrist, you're not gonna break yours, buddy. Punch me in the head. Oh, okay. Science. For science! Ah! That's unpleasant, and she's very small. Is your hand okay? Ah! And the Oscar goes to...
That's annoying too.
Try palm strikes?
If you wanna, there's no reason.
Ow, actually, that hurt.
She threw 2 of those! I wasn't even planning on trying palm strikes, she just wanted to hit me in the face in a different way.
I mean, wouldn't you?
Look at these.
But here's the thing. She didn't do palm strike quickly. Yep. She still hurt herself. So that's okay. Well, I'm gonna quit this shenanigans here because it's almost time for me to go. But see you next time, guys. Subscribe, like, doing your thing. If you like this